My name is Elsbeth Dixon. I'm the Chief Executive at Common Purpose South Africa. What are the things that make me happy? I love to be on the beach in the Eastern Cape. I love running on my own, road running, and I love watching rugby, especially when the Springboks win.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to yet another amazing episode. It's your favorite host, Baba Lomawela. I know we've kept you waiting for a very long time, but that's because we've got a few things cooking that you should look forward to. If you're new here, welcome to our channel. And if you're a returning subscriber, thank you for your commitment to the channel and thank you for your engagement. You know the house rules. Please comment, like, share, and subscribe. Today in studio, we've got a very, very amazing guest. She goes by the name Dr. Elsbeth Dixon. How are you doing?
Very good. That's a very kind introduction. So hello, and hello to all the folk out there who are watching.
It's so lovely to have you here. Please do the honors by introducing yourself. Please tell our audience what you're about, who you are, and, just basic, well, not basic, but go ahead. It's your time to shine.
Thanks, Pamela. Thanks for your warmth here as we sit together and chat. So, yes, my name is Elsbeth Dixon, and I'm the CEO of an organization called Common Purpose South Africa. And Common Purpose is involved in training, so it specializes in training leaders, leadership training.
Okay.
And we've been around here in South Africa now for over 20 years.
Yeah.
So that's the headline. There's lots behind the scenes. I'm also a wife, a mother of three grown-up children.
Okay.
3 children who all live abroad. And a girl from the Eastern Cape at heart.
Oh, okay. I didn't know, actually.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's amazing. And, I love that you touched on leadership. Please tell us more about Common Purpose and what the misconceptions about what Common Purpose actually does.
Sure. So Common Purpose is a global organization, actually. It's a non-profit organization, and we've been around for over 30 years. We actually have over 120,000 alumni globally. So This is a really well-established organization.
Yeah.
And I think the word leadership is one that we use easily, but often is understood very differently.
100%.
By different people. And so Common Purpose has a very particular approach to leadership, a very particular way of thinking about leadership. And let me put it like this. We know that the problems in the world around us, the problems in our own organizations, the problems in society often are very complex.
Yeah.
And one might say that they cross boundaries. If you think of our period of dealing with COVID, COVID, it required all of us in society to be collaborating together to tackle that issue. When it was time to stay at home, all of us needed to stay at home. When it was time for the Department of Health to step up and bring the guidelines, that was important. When it was time for private health to step in with vaccines, etc. So our approach, Common Purpose's approach to leadership is about collaborative leadership. How do we work together to tackle the challenges in society? Because often you and I, when we were introduced to the word leadership, not so. It's usually in a hierarchical context.
Yes, definitely.
Where the teacher in the classroom is the leader, and we are the folk who must follow that leader.
Yes.
And the principal is the leader of the school, and the teachers follow the leader. So it's usually a very hierarchical way of thinking. And Common Purpose has a very much more lateral way of thinking about leadership, that we're not leaders because we hold some formal position, but we're leaders because of our personal characteristics, because of who we are.
Exactly.
And the Common Purpose is an invitation to collaborative leadership to tackle issues in society. So there you go. That's quite a mouthful about Common Purpose.
Look, it's amazing work that you're doing, because you're opening my mind as we speak now about your view and your approach in leadership. And, as you're speaking, I'm just thinking, I'd like you to share an experience with us of one of your most memorable times or an initiative that you have driven as common purpose that still stands out to you.
Sure, there are a lot.
Yes.
Let me just preface the particular experience with a little more background.
Okay, definitely.
So, Common Purpose runs what we call public leadership programs, where we deliberately recruit an extremely diverse group of leaders to come on the training program. And so these groups, as you can imagine, are fascinating. You can have, and if I think of a senior leaders group that we have had in South Africa in the past, there was an aeronautical engineer from the CSIR.
Yeah.
There was a Sangoma from Tembisa.
Sure.
There was a school principal. There was a journalist. There was a hip-hop dancer. There was a banker from Sandton. There was an IT entrepreneur. So very, very diverse groups. So we gather these groups together each year. One of our programs is for high potential leaders, young people. One of our programs is for senior leaders, and one of our programs is for global leaders, executives from all around the world.
Okay.
So the example I want to give you comes from a time when we were running the Emerging Leaders Program in Nigeria. So this is a Pan-African leadership program. So we had wonderful high potential leaders, young people from across the continent, and we were in Nigeria. Now, we know that South Africa and Nigeria have sometimes a complex relationship.
Definitely, yeah.
And it so happened that we were in Nigeria for this module at the time when there had been xenophobic violence in South Africa. And our Nigerian fellow Africans often feel, and the media often presents the xenophobic violence in South Africa as particularly directed against Nigerians. And so we, as a group sitting in Lagos at that time, when the nearest ShopRite store was being burnt down and MTN was being attacked, because these are retaliatory attacks based on that perception that what is happening in South Africa is anti-Nigerian. We found ourselves there, and we had a Pan-African group. So sitting in the room, the young leaders sitting in the room were Kenyans, Nigerians, South Africans, Ghanaians, Zambians, and so on. And it was the most incredible opportunity to talk to each other about how we see each other as Africans on this continent. It was an incredible opportunity for Nigerians and South Africans to talk to each other. We had the leader, the head of HR from a corporate here in South Africa, whose participants were with us there in Lagos, on the phone saying, I want to fly my people out.
Yeah.
And we were able to say to that person, they would miss the most enormous learning opportunity because here we are in the midst of the situation as collaborative leaders with an intent to build the African continent. And we've got an opportunity to talk to each other with a catalyst of what is happening all around us. And so we began the conversation with the folk in the room.
Okay.
And never forget, one of the Nigerians in the room, as we said, we're opening the floor to talk about what is happening around us and how this has arisen and how do we progress from here. He got up, he was a Nigerian man. He got up and he said, I want to hug a South African. It was the most precious moment. It was the most special moment. It was a moment where the tension in the room was diffused and the conversation just rolled on after that around trying to find mutual understanding and trying to find a depth of understanding as to how on our continent we get into these situations. And it's not just South Africans and Nigerians, Tanzanians and Kenyans who don't see eye to eye. It happens all around our continent. We have civil wars on our continent. So it was an opportunity for the most incredible learning in a volatile, fragile environment in Lagos. So you can hear, quite memorable.
Yeah, it is. I love that you use the word fragile because that is exactly what what I can imagine it to have been. And based on your experience, and you mentioned something so important. I think we have a narrow view of what leadership is, and you mentioned that I think it's according to a hierarchy of some sort. You speaking of collaborative leadership, has that proven to be one of the most effective ways of leadership, or is there still some work that needs to be done? What are your views on that?
I think it's not only the most effective, I think it's a vital approach to leadership. One of the things that we talk about as we teach leadership is we try to offer folk what we call a leadership compass. And compass is actually an acronym.
Yeah.
And so let me go through that because I think
Please.
it gives a really valuable and practical framework.
Yeah.
So the C stands for confidence.
Okay.
Because we may have many skills and we may have a very sharp intellect, but leaders do need to stand up with confidence and take a position and move forward in situations. And so that's one of the key things that Common Purpose is always working to build confidence. And this can even be in executive level leaders. And you might say, really? But it's confidence to try new things, confidence to step out, to go out on a limb about an issue and so on. So confidence, the C, CO in Compass.
Yes.
The M stands for mindset. And again, we're always trying to shift people's mindsets to have a broader perspective, to see issues through the lenses of other people as well, to gather new and fresh perspectives. That's why it's so valuable for the banker to be sitting in the room with a sangoma and with a school principal, because you get confronted with perspectives that you never expected. And it opens your eyes to your blind spots. So really broadening people's mindsets, shifting people's mindsets is a really important part of leadership, I think, a much broader framework. So we've got to the M of compass. Now we get to the P. And the P stands for place. Place.
Okay.
And we could also use the word context, understanding your context. Okay. So leading effectively without blinkers on, but with a much broader frame of reference. So on the programs, we take people out to many locations in their city to go to places they've never been to. So if we're running a program here in Johannesburg, and we obviously run many, we may take them on one day to the Johannesburg prison.
Okay.
And we may take them the next day to the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. And on the next day, we may take them to an IT incubator. And we may take them on the next day to a corporate boardroom in Sandton.
Okay.
And the next day to a community hall in Alex. So, and many of the folk, we laugh sometimes. We have such jokes. Because we say, sometimes the bankers from Sandton who've grown up in the northern suburbs think that if they have to go to Chris Hani Baragwanath Hospital for a program event, they might not come back alive.
Yeah, of course.
They've never been south of Empire Road. And equally, for a community leader from Alex, it can be an uncomfortable experience to be in a boardroom of
100%.
Sandton. It's 5 kilometers away. It's 3 kilometers away, but it's a world apart. And so really stretching people's experience of place, the P in compass. Okay. Now we're getting there eventually. The next one is for attributes.
Yes.
And so there are a number of important attributes, obviously, that a leader needs to have. And some of the ones we focus on are inclusivity.
Yes.
And we focus on courage. And we focus on being intentional. And so there are a range of attributes. And then the S's are for skills. So there's a skill set. And a lot of that is not big, grand and glorious things, but fundamentally basic skills. The ability to build a relationship. The ability to ask profound questions that give you insight, the ability to listen carefully. How many leaders don't listen carefully? We've got 2 ears, one mouth, and most leaders don't use them in that proportion. So the ability to listen well, the ability to build trust, and so on and so forth. So Compass is the framework that we are working towards. We're trying to give each leader a leadership compass, working across that space.
Sure. That is... I'm blown away, first of all. And literally, my mind is opening up, and I'm really grateful that I'm sitting with you here, because Wow, this is amazing. And I think what my next question would be then is because, we workplace based. And I just want maybe us to come back to the workplace. So, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Let's tap into that. What is your understanding and your experience in the space?
Yeah, that's a really powerful and important question.
Yeah.
And you ask it in this time after our national election
Yeah.
with a government of national unity. And the word inclusion has got to become one of the most powerful words in our vocabulary.
100%.
It's happening at national level and it needs to happen in our workplaces. So Common Purpose believes that inclusion is one of the key attributes of leaders.
Yeah.
I mentioned it.
Yes, you mentioned it.
As one of those attributes
You did.
earlier. And so over the years, Common Purpose has evolved what I would call a body of thought leadership that we teach, albeit through the experience of going out into society. And inclusion is a key part of this. So we talk about something called cultural intelligence.
Okay.
Now, you and I have all heard about IQ, you know,
Yes.
how the brain boxes,
Yes.
the people who have high logical, analytical
Yes.
intelligence. We've heard about EQ,
Yes.
which is your emotional intelligence, your ability to work well with people. But CQ, or cultural intelligence, we find to be fundamentally important in modern leadership, in society and in organizations that are so diverse, because CQ, in our definition, is your ability to work well with people who are different from you.
Wow.
Lots of us are good at working well with people who are like us.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of our most fundamentally human characteristics is that we gravitate to people who are like us. You hang out with people who are like you. I mean,
Yeah.
you and I can grin at you. We do this, okay?
We do.
The people in your street, the people in your suburb, the people you grew up with, the people you went to school with, you find the mates who feel a bit like me and are comfortable. But the workplace is much more complex than that. Our government of national unity is much more complex than that. You've got to hang out with people who are different from you.
Yeah.
They think differently from you. They were socialized differently from you. They're a different ideology from you. They are a different race group from you. They're a different gender from you. They're a different
Definitely.
generation from
Absolutely.
you. They came from a different country on the continent. Difference exists in so many dimensions.
Yeah.
And the race dimension has become so important in South Africa because of our history, and we understand that. But it's much more than that. Diversity is a conversation around your uniqueness and my uniqueness, which is the sum total of your whole life story and my whole life story. My upbringing as a farm girl in the Eastern Cape shaped me. The fact that I'm the youngest of 3 siblings shaped me. The fact that I grew up in a home where we attended the Methodist church and Methodism and Christianity was a fundamental part of our home. It shaped me. I'm the sum of all of those parts. Yes, my skin is white. Yes, I am female. Yes, I am heterosexual. You know, there are a few dimensions that we've sort of reduced the diversity conversation to do two. And I'm not discounting the race dimension for one moment. It's fundamental in South Africa. But I think we need to allow the word diversity to breathe, to be bigger, to encompass your uniqueness and mine. And so what Common Purpose really seeks to do with this diversity word as part of that leadership training or as separate diversity training in its own right is to allow that word to breathe and to offer the framework of cultural intelligence, which is all about how do we unlock the opportunity of diversity. Not how do we avoid making mistakes, but how do we unlock the opportunity? Because with diversity comes innovation. When you and I think differently, we bring different ideas to the table. We unlock value.
Absolutely,
So how do we work with diversity in such a way that we unlock its value? How do we work with diversity in such a way that we become resilient as a team? Because if we are afraid to talk about our differences, then I think under pressure and under stress, that can crack open and bad behavior can come out. And we're watching our government of national unity to see how they react under stress. But I think when we have built our cultural intelligence and we have had the frank and open conversations with each other, we become much more resilient as teams. So innovation, resilience, and I think many others. blind spots. Our ability to uncover our blind spots when we work with folk who are different from us is far greater than if we all have the same mindset.
100%.
Yeah. So I think, the diversity, equity, inclusion conversations for us are so important to leadership and such an opportunity in organizations and in leadership to unlock value. And we've got a very neat little tool that we use. Can I share it?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So when we teach cultural intelligence, we have a framework. And I've got to say this framework very slowly. The framework is your core
Okay.
and your flex.
Okay.
And this is the joke. If I say it fast, people think I'm saying cornflakes. Okay. So your core and your flex.
Your flex.
So
Okay.
what is your core? Your core is the things about you
Yes.
that you don't change easily.
Yeah.
Okay. They're the same today and tomorrow. And this can be core behaviors. It can be core values and so on. But your flex is the things about you that you are willing to flex on, that you want to flex on, that you understand the value and importance of flexing on, okay?
Okay.
So I'm going to get you to share an example just now,
Okay.
all right? Of what's in your core and what's in your flex. What's in my core? The value of family and love of family is absolutely deeply in my core. Years ago, my mom had a stroke and she was bedridden, and I used to try to fly down to the Eastern Cape regularly to go to help nurse my mom and be with my siblings because it's about the family hangs together,
Yeah.
So another thing that's in my core is when my cupboard doors are left open at home by the kids or by my husband or by I closed cupboard doors, so we can joke because our family knows our core behaviors.
Yeah. They do.
Yeah. And flex, coming to have this interview with you today, I thought, what clothing should I wear?
Yeah.
Because I can wear a bikini, I can wear a ball gown,
Yeah.
I can wear a three-piece suit, but in different circumstances, different clothing is appropriate, and I feel comfortable to flex my clothing to the situation. If I was a religious Muslim woman, I would not have flexed my clothing. I would be wearing my abaya, and I would come in
100%.
that. So you can see. So why is core and flex important? I think that as we seek to become better at working with difference, understanding that your core and flex are different from mine is fundamentally important. I'm not the gold standard for a human. People don't need to conform with my way. My core could be quite different from yours. Something that is core for me might be flex for you.
Exactly. Yeah.
If timeliness is core for me, like I always show up on time, and timeliness is flex for you, you're going to irritate the daylights out of me. And I'm going to irritate the daylights out of you because you're going to think that I'm just an uptight person, So we have tools that we teach that help folk to develop their cultural intelligence, that help them to become more inclusive, that help to unlock that value of difference in their teams as leaders, in their organizations, in their communities, in society. You can see that we're passionate about diversity.
This is amazing.
And its value.
Look, you've actually opened my mind. I didn't know about cultural intelligence. It was my first time hearing about CQ. And you see why I don't like reading. This is better for me. I learn better like this.
So can I add to that,
Sure.
Pablo? Just recognizing that is one of the things that we have built into the way of learning at Common Purpose.
Okay.
So we would never sit you down in a classroom and teach formal concepts in the way that most of us associate with the learning or training environment. Instead, we create opportunities for conversation, particularly with people who are different from us, so that we learn through each other's stories. We learn through the stories of leaders in society, and we're so grateful to leaders across South African society who have shown up to engage with our groups over time, who've hosted us at their organizations. And, I could thank 1,000 different leaders. I've just mentioned that our coming Senior Leaders Program.
Yes.
We are grateful to the Nelson Mandela Foundation that's going to host one of the days.
Yeah.
There, Vern Harris, CEO. Thank you, Vern. We are grateful to MTN, who is going to host one of our days. We are grateful to the city of Johannesburg, who is going to host one of our days. And so the mode of learning is extremely, on common purpose training programs, is extremely immersive, real, dynamic, grounded in the realities of society. We sometimes call our leadership training purpose-driven.
Okay.
Because it connects folk with the world around them. I think it helps them find their purpose and find the places in which they can put up their hand as a leader and say, here is where I want to make a difference in their organization, in society.
Yeah. You know, when you speak about purpose, I actually got a little chill in my spine because I don't know what my purpose is. So I want to ask, is that a good or a bad thing? And maybe there are more people that are like me that haven't found their purpose. And for people like me, what do you recommend as a way to find their purpose? Okay, before Dr. Elsbeth answers this question, let's take a short break. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we've got an exciting giveaway. Yep, you guessed it. 70,000 rands worth of bursaries. You just need to follow these easy steps in order to qualify for this amazing initiative. Step 1, sign up to Connect HR or recommend Connect HR to a small business that you know. Step 2, onboard all your employees, and once you've onboarded your employees, simply contact Babalo at connecthr.co.za, alternatively, Khomotsegang at connecthr.co.za. Once the onboarding process is complete, then you qualify to unlock a share in 70,000 rand of bursaries. All the best. We wish you luck. See you there. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We are still with Dr. Elsbeth. She is dropping some knowledge bombs and we are so excited. So just to recap, my question to you was, I mentioned that I'm at a point in my life where I'm very scared that I don't know what my purpose is. So is that a good or a bad thing? Or what are your thoughts on one not knowing what their purpose is in life?
Okay, powerful question, Tabalo. What a wonderful question. We have chosen to focus on purpose-driven leadership because we believe the word purpose is really very important. I think your purpose is like your engine. It's what drives you and keeps you going. Having said that, many of us are on a journey to find our purpose. I don't think you wake up overnight. Some folk may do, and you do hear those stories. But I think most of us journey towards our purpose. We find it as we go through life, not an instant revelation. And so the question might then be, okay, so how do I speed up that journey? How do I facilitate that journey of finding my purpose? And I think that there are a few things that you can do. You can hear that common purpose is a huge exponent of exposure to the world around you. I think because most of us live in bubbles. Those are comfortable little bubbles. Hanging out with people like us, we go to work, we have our little rhythm, we have our little routine, we do our gym thing, We've got a little pattern in our lives. And most of us don't really like that pattern to be disturbed. We're very comfortable in that pattern. But I think that being exposed to more and more breadth of what is happening around you helps you to discover who you are. Years ago, in storybooks, I used to read about something called a hall of mirrors. I don't know if you've ever heard that term.
No, I haven't.
I've never been in one myself, but I believe that in a hall of mirrors, you would have a mirror that was made in such a way that it would make you look short and fat. And then if you looked in this mirror over there, it would make you look tall and thin.
Okay, I see it.
And so I think that exposure outside of your bubble is a bit like going into a hall of mirrors where you see yourself differently and you find out things about yourself that you didn't know because you see yourself through the eyes of other people. Imagine the conversation I mentioned earlier on that senior leadership program
Yes.
between the Sangoma from Tembisa, who was a black Zulu woman, and the aeronautical engineer from the CSR, who was a white Afrikaner
Worlds
male.
apart. Yeah.
Because when they first sat down next to each other, I can still see this in my mind's eye, they didn't know what to say to each other. Okay? Where do you begin a conversation? By the end of the program, they were house friends.
Wow.
Because as we meet people very different from us and find ourselves in situations different from the bubble, the normal, it stretches and deepens our thinking about who we are, what we're doing, why we're here, what interests us. So that's a route that I would really recommend on the journey of finding our purpose.
Yeah.
I think there are interesting books we can read as well that
Yes.
broaden horizons, and books around self-development that help us explore those
Yeah.
questions. There's coaching that we can do that helps us explore big questions as well. But I think that the world is a powerful classroom. In fact, we use that phrase often
The
in common
world is a
purpose.
very powerful
The
classroom.
world or the city is the classroom. And so, those are great ways to explore. Don't get in a panic about it. It's a journey, but do be intentional
Yeah.
and deliberate about stretching yourself. As you stretch yourself, you start to step closer to the purpose word.
Yeah. Thank you for the advice. Thank you for not charging for the advice. But thank you. I think I'll definitely be more intentional. And to you too, who feels exactly like me, please take notes. You never know. You never know where that leads you to. And I want to touch more on young leaders. What's your view on upcoming young leaders? What are the trends that you have observed? I just want to hear more about that.
Sure. That's a very exciting question,
Yes.
again, because Common Purpose is very engaged with leaders globally, with young leaders globally. In fact, in our entire portfolio of work globally, we probably do more work with young leaders than we do with folk in any other generation. And let me just, before I go to youth, let me just add that we do, as Common Purpose, work with folk from 18 years old all the way through to end of career. So we do have a number of different programs for folk at different career stages. Youth, what we would call high potential leaders who are in early career, senior leaders, and global executives.
Yeah.
But let's go to the youth. I think that young people around the world, because you've lived in a technological age and because you're so exposed to what's happening, you are leaning in and stepping in a way that probably no prior generation did.
Yes.
Which is incredibly exciting, with a sense of responsibility. And I think that we at Common Purpose are really keen to help young people lean in more effectively. So we run a number of programs for young people. There is a very exciting global series that we run called the Legacy series for individuals between age 18 and 25. And we run this in cities around the world. And the whole idea is to enable the young leaders of that city. And this is not folk who especially have been given a label that say you're a young leader, but these are folk who have the appetite for it. Self-elected folk who want to participate in such programs. And then we will give them exposure to leaders across the city in all sorts of organizations. And particularly, we're seeking to build intergenerational conversation so that we're giving young leaders the opportunity to engage with senior leaders and build relationship. Relationship is a key word for us within the context of leadership. How do we connect folk together in productive, positive relationship, particularly folk who wouldn't otherwise meet, because that's where the power lies, the common purpose lies. So the Legacy program series runs all around the world in different cities, connecting young people with their city and with senior leaders of that city. We also do a lot of work with students. It is a very big focus of ours, and we've worked with many, many students in South Africa at a number of universities. And again, helping students to build cultural intelligence, helping them to to broaden their horizons and their framework so that they understand more deeply how society works and they've met leaders in society that they can engage with into the future. So a lot of work with students. And then most recently here in South Africa, we actually have designed locally a program that we are very proud of and we are working very hard to expand. We call it the Kickstart program, which we designed specifically for unemployed youth.
Okay.
And that came about in an interesting way. Over the years, we've had very, very diverse groups attending our senior leaders programs, our high potential programs. And some of those folk have been unemployed people who've attended the programs. And so given the immensity of the challenge that we have with unemployment in South Africa, we consulted with these individuals, these alumni of ours who are unemployed. We said, could Common Purpose help?
Yeah.
Could we provide a learning experience that would be useful?
Okay.
And it was unforgettable. Talk about the unforgettable experiences. That workshop was unforgettable. I remember a young man standing up and saying, yes, absolutely, Common Purpose could help. The first thing that you teach us is you teach us to love ourselves again. You teach us self-esteem. You restore our sense of personhood. You restore our sense of agency. You restore our self-belief when we come on a Common Purpose program. And unemployed youth need that more than anything else.
True.
They need their self-belief and their self-love to be restored. So that was the first thing they said. The second thing they said was, you take us out into society. You've heard me say this 1,000 times now. As young unemployed people, we need that because our poverty traps us.
Yeah, definitely.
We don't have access. Data is too expensive. Transport's too expensive. We're trapped in many different ways. So give us the exposure that a Common Purpose program does. And the third thing they said to us was, we need access to role models. We need to see it. We need to learn from the people who were in our shoes and now they're running their own big businesses, small businesses. They're employed. They've got another degree. We need to engage with them so that we can learn how they moved from where they are now to there. And so we designed a program which we call Kickstart.
Kickstart, okay.
For unemployed youth or for unemployed people. It doesn't necessarily have to be youth. And we rolled that out last year. We were fortunate to receive money from the Presidential Employment Stimulus Program.
Oh, nice.
And we rolled that out with a partner in the arts and culture sector, Business and Arts South Africa. And we reached over 400 young people around South Africa. We went to 6 of the provinces. And the program ran. It's a 3-day in-person program with mentorship with our alumni afterwards. And we got wonderful results. 84% of the folk who responded to our survey afterwards said that they had moved out of, what we call neat status in South Africa, not employed in educational training. So 84% of the folk who responded to our survey said they had, as a result of coming on the program, moved out of neat status. 54% had gone into entrepreneurial activity. I think 8% had gone into jobs, and 12% had gone into internship, and about 20% were in formal education. So it's a very exciting piece. It's an adaptation of our leadership work, taking the core techniques, but helping young people to become more work ready.
Yeah. Amazing work that you're doing, and we commend you for that. This is truly exceptional. And you touched on work readiness because I see you speaking of unemployed youth, you're speaking of university students. How important is work readiness in your opinion? And, do you feel that there's a gap? Are people not taught enough about work readiness?
Sure, Pamela, you've got such brilliant questions because this is a huge issue in society. We did a very interesting piece of work 2 years ago with one of the local universities who were extremely innovative. And let me give them the kudos, Wits University. They were looking at this issue and saying, how do we help folk to develop their employability? How do we help folk to become more work ready while they're studying with us? And so they asked us to run we called it an incubator with them, where we brought folk from industry in, we brought folk from government in, we brought folk from the non-profit sector in, and there were folk from the university, and there were lecturers, and there were students. It was incredible potpourri to talk about this very issue, because it's not a question that anyone can answer in isolation. It requires a collaboration. It requires a better interface between universities and the stakeholders in society. And we had the most fabulously interesting and productive conversations there. So I think there's room in universities to heighten awareness around how to do it differently. There was one professor in the medicine department who was involving his students in curriculum design.
Okay.
So that it would be more relevant.
Yes.
Through their lens. I mean, you're not going to hand over curriculum design to students, but to take their perspectives and views was incredibly innovative. So we run some programs in Common Purpose that help with work readiness. We have developed an online platform called Evolve Careers, an online program, which is can be made available to universities, and that's going through a number of attributes that young people need to be ready for the workplace. And again, although it's an online program, we've interviewed a number of senior HR staff, senior managers in workplaces to get their view around how young people can prepare themselves to be more work ready. So there's our Evolve Careers platform. Another thing that we've done is work with some corporates to work with their brand new graduates who've just come in. So I think you can prepare yourself before you get into the workplace, and you can also continue to prepare yourself immediately after you've landed in the workplace. So we're running a very exciting program there around work readiness, which starts with corporate citizenship. So what is corporate citizenship? What does the workplace expect of me? It deals with things like building networks in the workplace. How do I build networks in the workplace? It deals with cultural intelligence. You know, how do I work with the diversity of the workplace? So a number of attributes that will help young people to get up to speed faster, because I think young people entering the workplace are under an enormous amount of pressure, because there's almost no workplace anywhere in the world that is easy now.
True.
All corporates are under pressure, large and small, and they expect their graduates to be able to deliver quickly. There isn't a long honeymoon available anymore. So our program for new graduates or for new employees, I think, helps enormously to speed up that process of integration, settling in, becoming productive. So you can hear we're working on both sides of the work readiness challenge with Evolve Careers and student work, you know, with that digital platform. And then once you're in the workplace already, it's a biggie. It's going to be with us for a long time.
This is amazing. You're doing amazing. And I just want to say I really appreciate the time that I've spent with you today. I'm very privileged. I count myself blessed for this experience. And we've got a little something for you just to show you our appreciation. You took time out of your time to be with us. And
Thank you. Babalo, it was a great pleasure to be here.
There we go.
Yes, very, very kind. Thank you. That was very unexpected. Very unexpected.
Thank you. Please. Yes, they're going to live long. Going to live long. Thank you so much. And do you have any parting words for our viewers?
Sure. Parting words for the viewers. I would really like to encourage everyone who may watch this to think of yourself as a leader. It's core to how we operate as Common Purpose, that leadership is not a formal position. It's not a title. It is a mindset. It is a way of living. And so that would be my parting shot, is think of yourself as a leader. You are a leader. And lean into that. Embrace every opportunity that you have to lead, because the world needs leaders.
The world needs
good
leaders.
leaders.
Good leaders. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Dr. Elsbeth Dixon. Where can people find you? After this episode, I'm sure they'll be flooding to your social.
Brilliant. Thank you. Very practical question. So our website, our global website, is obviously www.commonpurpose.org. Common Purpose, one word, .org is the easiest way to find us on the website. But if you're looking for an email address, South Africa commonpurpose.org is where you can mail us, and I'll find you there.
Okay.
And we'll find each other after that. We love to engage with folk who are interested in leadership. I
Okay.
spend a lot of my time in conversations, and so we would be so delighted if you reached out.
Okay, amazing. Ladies and gentlemen, this was episode 18. Share your thoughts in the comment section. See you next time. Stay blessed, stay warm. It's your sizzling host, Babi Mawela. See you next time.
Thank you.